Hi there, welcome along, and now we're going to look at the last podcast in this unit, which is showing changes in or to demand. Now the first thing that I want to do is show the distinction between two things, and the first one is quantity demanded versus demand. Those are two quite specific terms that we have in economics, and when we draw a demand curve and we have quantity over here and we have price measured in dollars over here and we have our demand curve, when we're talking about demand refers to the entire demand curve, so all points on that demand curve. So hence we have that label down there, D for demand. The whole curve is demand, but any one point on the curve is quantity demanded because they refer to the actual quantity on the horizontal axis. So it's really important that you understand the difference between quantity demanded being one of the points on the graph and demand being the graph, the whole demand curve. Okay, so with that in mind, there are two kinds of changes to demand. There's one which is a change in price, and then there's a change in some other factor, and we just call those non-price factors. So non-price factors change. And there's a big difference as to how we show that, because if we get a demand curve along here, and we have our demand and our quantity and our price, and excuse my computer doing a little blitz over there, and let's say we start here, we'll call that price 1, and we draw a dotted line across and then a straight line down, and we're going to call that Q1. So the current price is this price here, P1, and that's how much is demanded. That's the quantity demanded, Q1. Now if the price, for instance, of this good, let's say it's the market for apples, if the price of apples was to fall, we would show the new price, P2, and then we'd find the new quantity demanded on the graph. So we go along at P2 and then down to find the new quantity. So what you can see here is that a change in the price is shown as a movement along the demand curve. The actual demand curve itself does not change, we just move along. In this case the price has gone down, so we show that as the price, we must show those arrows there. Price has gone down, and as a consequence of the price we've moved along the demand curve, and therefore quantity has increased. Now when you're drawing this with a nice straight graph, make sure you draw dots on the curve where all the intersections are. You use dotted lines for showing, illustrating points on the graph, and you have arrows showing all the movements that are happening. Because remember, the key thing in economics is you're trying to illustrate ideas, and so it's really important that you use the graphs to show those ideas really clearly. Okay, let's take the second one now. So now we've got a non-price factor, and again it's a nice straight line, believe it or not. And again we've got price over here in dollars, and we've got quantity. And again let's take the market for apples. And we have demand, and we've got price, P1. And we've got Q1. Now let's imagine something like we've gone from winter to summer, when everyone starts eating a lot more fruit. Now as you'd imagine, demand for apples is going to go up. Now the price hasn't changed, so we don't shift the price, we don't move along the curve. What we do is we stay at this point, and what we show is the whole demand curve shifting along, because what that's actually saying is that irrespective of the price, and put D a dash to show the new demand curve, irrespective of price, people, whatever the price are, people will demand more. So we extend that dotted line out to the new demand curve, and then we draw a nice straight line straight down Q2. So, and we've gone, there's no change in price, the whole demand curve has shifted to the right because demand's increased, and quantity demanded has also risen. So demand has shifted to the right, and quantity demanded has also risen. So when we're doing a non-price factor, such as seasonal demand, we show it as a shift of the entire demand curve. Now, what I want to do now is actually summarize the various non-price factors. So, because you can pretty much put them into four types, and that is anything to do with people's tastes, people's income, the price of substitute goods, and a substitute good is something that you would buy instead of the good we're talking about. So a substitute good for apples might be pears. People might buy pears. What's happened here? Instead of apples. And then the other one is price of complementary goods. And a complementary good is a good or service that you buy along with the good that you're talking about. So for instance, if you're buying pen, or if you buy a printer, you might buy printer ink. Printer ink is a complementary good. So you can put, just to summarize it, if people's taste for a good grow, then it's going to cause demand to rise. If people's income rises, then again, demand for a good will go up, because we've got more money, more disposable income, people will spend more on the good. Now, if the price of a substitute good, let's say a blueberry goes down compared to the iPhone, then people are going to start saying, well, hang on, those two goods both do the same purpose. I'm going to switch from the iPhone to the blueberry. So if the price of a substitute good went down, that means that the demand will actually decrease, because people will buy less of that good and buy more of the substitute. Now, if it's a complementary good, so again, we're doing something like printers and printers ink. So if the price of printers went down, you would imagine that the demand for printer ink will go up, because people are going to say, great, printers are cheaper, therefore I'll buy more printer ink. So if the price of a complementary good goes down, the demand for a good goes up. And again, these are all shown, and I won't do the full graph, but as a demand shifting to the right. If demand increases, it shifts to the right. If demand decreases, we show it as a demand curve shifting to the left. And again, last one, demand increasing, therefore we show it as an increase to the right.